Kamala Harris. A name whispered in the halls of power, a name that evokes strong reactions from both sides of the aisle. But what is it about Kamala Harris that sparks such intense debate? Why is her story, a tale of ambition and power, so shrouded in controversy? Tonight we delve into the enigma of Kamala Harris. We pull back the curtain on a career marked by both soaring triumphs and unsettling questions. We examine the woman who ascended to the second highest office in the land, leaving a trail of whispers and speculation in her wake. Is she a champion of the people, as her supporters claim? Or is there a darker side to her story, one that the mainstream media seems reluctant to tell? Over the next few minutes, we'll lay out the facts and let you, the viewer, decide. Kamala Harris's rise to power is nothing short of meteoric. From District Attorney to Attorney General of California, then on to the United States Senate, her ascent has been swift and strategic. But some would say, too swift, too calculated. How did she manage to climb the ladder so quickly? Who were her allies, and more importantly, who were her benefactors? These are questions that deserve answers, answers that we'll explore in detail. Because when someone rises to power so rapidly, it's only natural to wonder who is pulling the strings. And what about the controversies that seem to follow her every step of the way? The whispers of questionable prosecutions, of political maneuvering, of a ruthlessness that left some feeling trampled beneath her ambition. Are these just the jealous whispers of her enemies? Or is there something more to these stories, something the American people deserve to know? We believe in transparency. We believe in holding our leaders accountable, and we believe that the American people have a right to know the truth about those who seek to represent them. That's why tonight we're shining a light on Kamala Harris, not to tear her down but to understand her motivations, her ambitions, and yes, her flaws. Because in a democracy, knowledge is power, and the more we know about our leaders, the better equipped we are to hold them accountable. So join us as we embark on this journey of discovery, a journey that will take us deep into the heart of American power, and the woman who occupies one of its highest seats. Kamala Devi Harris. Born in Oakland, California in 1964, her name, meaning lotus flower in Sanskrit, hinted at an exotic heritage. Her father, a Stanford economist from Jamaica, and her mother, a cancer researcher from India, instilled in young Kamala a drive to succeed, a hunger for achievement that would come to define her life. But beneath the surface of this accomplished family, there were tensions, ideological clashes that would shape Kamala's worldview. Her parents, active in the civil rights movement, divorced when she was young. Some say the seeds of Kamala's own ambition, her relentless climb to the top, were sown in these early years, a desire to prove herself, to rise above the complexities of her upbringing. Was it this drive, this burning ambition, that propelled Kamala Harris forward? Or were there other forces at play, shaping her destiny from the shadows? And what about the whispers of radical influences, of exposure to far-left ideologies during her formative years? Were these merely the musings of political opponents, or did they hold a grain of truth that would later manifest in her policies and pronouncements? Section 2. A Berkeley Awakening. The hallowed halls of Berkeley. A breeding ground for radical thought, a crucible of activism, and the place where Kamala Harris would spend her formative college years. It was here, amidst the protests and the passionate debates, that Kamala honed her voice, her ability to command a room, to argue her case with unwavering conviction. But Berkeley was also a place of extremes, where radical ideas flourished, and where the lines between activism and ideology could become blurred. Was Kamala Harris swept up in this tide of radicalism? Did she embrace the ideologies that were taking root on campus? Ideas that would later find their way into the mainstream of the Democratic Party? Some say her time at Berkeley radicalized her, instilled in her a deep distrust of traditional power structures, a belief that the system itself was inherently flawed and in need of fundamental change. Others argue that she remained pragmatic, focused on her own advancement, even as she navigated the turbulent waters of Berkeley activism. The truth, as always, likely lies somewhere in between. But one thing is certain: Kamala Harris's time at Berkeley left an indelible mark, shaping her worldview, her political instincts, and the course of her future ambitions. Section 3. the rise of a prosecutor. After graduating from Berkeley, Kamala Harris earned her degree from Hastings College of the Law. With her sharp intellect, she could dissect arguments and command attention. She became a prosecutor, joining the Alameda County District Attorney's Office. Harris quickly gained a reputation for being tough and uncompromising. Her time as a prosecutor defined her early career and set the stage for her rise. Section 1. The San Francisco Years, a Mixed Record. As San Francisco's district attorney, Kamala Harris faced crime, homelessness, and unease. Supporters saw her as a reformer, a fresh air in an outdated system. But her tenure had both progress and troubling allegations. Harris championed programs to reduce recidivism, like Back on Track. Critics argue her reforms masked a troubling reality. Conviction rates stayed high, with accusations of ignoring police misconduct. The San Francisco years were marked by both achievement and controversy. Section 2. Justice for some controversial cases and allegations of bias. Kamala Harris's record as a prosecutor is littered with cases that have drawn scrutiny. Critics allege she was more interested in securing convictions than ensuring justice. One disturbing case involved Daniel Larson, wrongly accused of assault. Despite exculpatory evidence, Harris's office pursued the charges relentlessly. Larson spent years behind bars before being cleared. The Larson case is one example that has alarmed legal experts and civil rights advocates. Harris's office was accused of disproportionately targeting people of color. These cases continue to haunt Kamala Harris's legacy. They paint a picture of a prosecutor more concerned with her own advancement, a stark reminder that equal justice is often far different for those without power. Section 3. The Snitching Scandal. Exploiting parents and children. Kamala Harris's office implemented a draconian policy threatening parents with jail if their children missed school. This policy criminalized poverty, exploiting vulnerable families for political gain. Many targeted were single mothers, struggling to make ends meet. Harris defended the policy, arguing it held parents accountable. The snitching scandal is a chilling example of exploiting the vulnerable for ambition. Dodging accountability. Kamala Harris has a pattern of evading accountability, deflecting blame, and avoiding tough questions. She obfuscates, denies, and attacks the messenger. From wrongful convictions to persecuting parents for truancy, Harris avoids responsibility. She hides behind talking points and media allies. This evasion raises questions about her integrity and fitness for leadership. Until she addresses these concerns, doubt will follow her. The 2020 Democratic primaries were unusual. Joe Biden, barely able to campaign, emerged as the frontrunner. It seemed preordained by unseen forces within the Democratic establishment. This was not a contest of ideas, it was a coronation. The DNC, fearing Bernie Sanders, closed ranks behind Biden. The media promoted Biden as the electable moderate. Never mind his gaffes and questionable record. Dissenting voices were swiftly silenced. The true objective was the vice presidency. One by one, Biden's rivals for the Democratic nomination fell by the wayside. But perhaps the most curious case of all was that of Bernie Sanders. Once again, the Vermont senator had galvanized a grassroots movement. And once again, the Democratic establishment moved swiftly to crush his candidacy. The message was clear: Bernie Sanders was not allowed to win. With Biden installed as the presumptive nominee, the search for his running mate began. This was no ordinary vice presidential selection process. It was about choosing the next president, the heir apparent. The media trotted out a list of potential candidates, most of them women of color, but the outcome was a foregone conclusion. Kamala Harris, despite her disastrous primary campaign, her lack of any real base of support, was the chosen one. Kamala Harris was not elected vice president, she was anointed. Donald Trump campaigned on a promise to put America first, to restore American sovereignty, and rebuild the nation's industrial might. His America First agenda resonated with millions of Americans who felt left behind by globalization. Kamala Harris, in contrast, represents globalist elitism. A product of the coastal elite, she champions policies benefiting the wealthy at the expense of working-class Americans. The contrast between Trump's America First agenda and Harris's globalist elitism is stark. It is a battle between two fundamentally different visions for America's future. Donald Trump ran on a platform of law and order, promising to restore safety and security to America's streets. He recognized that the first duty of any government is to protect its citizens, and he vowed to crack down on illegal immigration, support law enforcement, and uphold the rule of law. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, has aligned herself with the radical left's agenda of open borders and defunding the police. She has repeatedly called for abolishing ICE, the very agency tasked with enforcing immigration laws and protecting our borders from criminals and terrorists. She has expressed support for the Defund the Police movement, which seeks to strip law enforcement of the resources they need to keep communities safe. Her policies, if enacted, would have disastrous consequences for the safety and security of the American people. Open borders would unleash a flood of illegal drugs, criminals, and terrorists into our communities. Defunding the police would embolden criminals and make our cities unlivable. The choice is clear. Donald Trump's commitment to law and order, to protecting American citizens from harm, stands in stark contrast to Kamala Harris's embrace of radical, dangerous policies that would make our communities less safe and our country more vulnerable. Donald Trump understood that for too long, America had been taken advantage of by other countries in trade deals that benefited foreign workers at the expense of American jobs. He pledged to renegotiate these unfair deals, to bring back manufacturing to the United States, and to put American workers first. Kamala Harris, true to her globalist allegiances, has consistently supported trade deals that have shipped American jobs overseas and decimated the nation's industrial base. She favors the interests of multinational corporations and foreign governments over the well-being of American workers and the strength of the American economy. Trump's economic nationalism, his commitment to putting American workers first, led to a period of unprecedented economic growth and job creation before the COVID-19 pandemic. Harris's globalist policies, on the other hand, would only serve to accelerate the decline of the American middle class and further enrich the global elite. The choice facing American voters is clear: a return to the prosperity and economic independence of the Trump era, or a continuation of the globalist policies that have hollowed out America's industrial heartland and left millions of working-class Americans struggling to make ends meet. The Green New Deal, a Trojan horse for socialism. Let's talk about the Green New Deal. This radical proposal is a Trojan horse for socialism, a backdoor attempt to dismantle the American economy. They talk about saving the planet, but what they're really after is power. Power over your lives, your choices, your future. They want to control what kind of car you drive, what kind of food you eat, even how much energy you're allowed to consume. And who do you think will benefit from this radical transformation? Certainly not the average American. No, the real winners will be the globalist elites, the ones who stand to make billions from green energy subsidies, while the rest of us foot the bill. The Green New Deal is a recipe for economic disaster, a socialist pipe dream that will bankrupt our nation. It's time to expose this dangerous agenda and reject it before it's too late. Can America survive the Biden-Harris agenda? The Biden-Harris administration has been marked by a profound erosion of trust. They promised unity but delivered division. From the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan to the weaponization of the Department of Justice, they have lied to us, spied on us, and sought to silence us. The question is, how much longer can America survive? We are at a crossroads, a pivotal moment in our nation's history. The time for action is now. A legacy of shadows. We've journeyed deep into the career of Kamala Harris, examining her rise to power, her controversial decisions, and her policies that seem so at odds with the values of so many hardworking Americans. What emerges is a troubling portrait of ambition over principle, of power pursued at any cost. From her early days as a prosecutor, where she seemed more interested in securing convictions than in pursuing justice, to her time as Attorney General of California, where she championed policies that criminalized poverty and exploited the vulnerable, a pattern emerges. A pattern of ambition unchecked, of a willingness to disregard the rights of individuals in pursuit of her own political advancement. And what of her tenure as vice president? Has she used this position to champion the needs of the American people? Or has she remained beholden to the globalist elites and special interests that propelled her to power? The evidence, as we've seen, speaks for itself. Kamala Harris's legacy is one shrouded in shadows. her record marred by a series of troubling decisions and questionable judgments. It's a legacy that should give pause to any American who values freedom, justice, and the principles upon which this nation was founded. The price of power. Power, it is often said, corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. Kamala Harris's career, her relentless climb to the highest echelons of power, stands as a stark reminder of this timeless truth. Along the way, she has left a trail of broken promises, betrayed allies, and disillusioned supporters. Those who dared to stand in her path, who questioned her motives or challenged her ambition, were often met with ruthless efficiency, their reputations smeared, their careers destroyed. Is this the kind of leadership America needs? A leadership driven by personal ambition rather than the common good? A leadership that sees power not as a sacred trust, but as a weapon to be wielded against those who dissent? The price of power, as we've seen, is often paid in the currency of integrity, compassion, and a commitment to the principles of justice and equality. Kamala Harris's story is a cautionary tale, a reminder that the pursuit of power, unchecked by moral scruples, can have devastating consequences for individuals and for nations alike. A call to action. We as Americans cannot afford to be bystanders in this critical moment in our nation's history. We cannot stand idly by while our freedoms are eroded, our values trampled upon, and our future mortgaged to special interests and globalist elites. We must demand better from our leaders. We must hold them accountable for their actions, their decisions, and their commitment to the principles enshrined in our Constitution. We must reject the politics of fear, division, and identity, and embrace a vision of America that is united, prosperous, and free. The time for silence is over. The time for action is now. Let your voices be heard. Contact your elected officials. Support organizations dedicated to preserving our freedoms and defending our values. The future of America hangs in the balance. The choice is ours. Let us choose wisely. Let us choose freedom.